Bonjour, and welcome to an Escoffier episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Catherine Weigel. I am one of your hosts. Je suis one of your hosts. That's partially French and partially American. Hello.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts. I've lost over 100 pounds. I've kept it off for over 6 years. I'm a Tiny Habit certified coach, a Thrive Global certified coach, and avec me is my husband.
Okay. So before I introduce myself, here's a disturbing, terrible fact about me.
Okay.
I took 2 semesters of French in college.
Oui.
They were my worst 2 grades in 4 years of college. And I have no idea what most of the things you just said
So you don't know what avec means?
Okay, avec I knew, but what was the first thing you said?
Bonjour.
No, not bonjour. You said it was like a
Escoffier.
Yeah, I have no
That's
idea
a guy's
what that
name,
is.
so you're fine.
I have no idea what
it's
that
is.
is.
It's just a guy's name.
Okay. You oftentimes speak French like you think I will understand what you're saying.
Well, the first thing was
idea.
bonjour, so bonjour to you.
So bonjour! Hello! It is Donald Weigel, and I am obviously not French-speaking, and I am one of the hosts of this show, however, and I have lost about 100 pounds. I've kept it off for like almost 7 years, and it's our 350th episode.
Hooray! Félicitations!
Yeah.
That's really annoying. I'm going to stop dropping and rolling with a few French words that I know.
Crescent roll.
Sure.
And I know bonbon. That's French, right?
Okay. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah.
But someone that I know went to Dunkin' Donuts recently.
Whoa.
They went to the
Name
Dunk.
dropper.
The Dunk.
The Dunk.
But they have a habit of pronouncing French words.
Oh yeah,
in
croissant.
A very French way.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure that you can get a croissant
at
I think you get a croissant. You get a croissant at Dunkin' Donuts. You don't get a croissant.
Well, and I'll tell you, as when I was growing up, it was a crescent roll.
Crescent roll. Yeah. Well, but let's not. What are the? I can't remember. Pillsbury, is that the little guy with a?
Yeah, but I mean, all croissants were crescent rolls when I was growing up.
Not
oh yeah.
Me.
No, I feel like I was fairly old, like maybe college age, before I routinely started hearing people say croissant.
Croissant. After we. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. But do you remember when we went to France?
I do.
Do you remember that I spoke French to people?
I do.
And do you know what that required?
French,
which is a practice.
Oh, yeah.
That I practiced for before we went there.
Yeah.
To get ready to go to France.
Yeah.
And I did pretty well, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
I got us through.
In my defense, when we went to Germany,
yes,
I learned
you got it done.
I learned something like a dozen to 15-ish phrases in German, and people we were with started turning to me to translate. Like I seriously knew like please let's have the check and things like that. I had memorized like 15 phrases and that was all I knew. But
you know what's interesting about that, and this does actually tie into what we're going to talk about today. When we went to Germany, I didn't really want to go to Germany. I was like, all right, let's go to Germany. I don't want to learn the language. I'm just it's fine, like whatever. And then guess what? I actually really enjoyed Germany.
Yeah, it was
and then
great.
I felt like a Doofenshmirtz for not knowing how to speak.
That's actual German.
A Dummkopf.
Oh, yeah,
a
exactly.
Dummkopf for not knowing how to speak German when I got there, because it was actually it was very helpful that you knew German, and so that's actually what prompted me to learn more French and Italian when we went to French and Italian lands.
Yes. That's what they're called.
When we went to Olive
French
Garden.
land and Italian land. Yes, that's what they're called by the locals.
It is, but when we prepare, we are more what? Prepared.
Yeah.
And so that brings me to actually what we did over Labor Day. I promise this is getting us toward where we want to go.
Yeah.
So we for Labor Day went up to see some friends for a visit, which was very pleasant. We woke up earlier than them.
Yeah.
Our daughter woke up earlier and was looking for a spoon. And now, I can't remember how to say spoon.
I was going to ask.
I was a fourchette. If she had looked for a fourchette, that would have been a fork. But I can't remember what a spoon is right now. It's fine.
Yeah, watch your language. This is a family podcast.
So we were in our friend's kitchen, and I was looking for, let's just say fork. It's easier to say fork. Looking for a fork. I proceeded to open as many as 15 cabinets.
I did the same
thing.
I did. You don't even know that. I did the exact same thing. It was in the last drawer.
The last drawer.
I looked in every, and I mean, okay.
It's obviously the last place that
everything is always in the last place you look, because once you find it, then you stop looking. But I seriously looked in every other drawer.
Yeah.
It was in the most like instinctively wrong drawer in the whole kitchen. Yeah,
exactly. And the point of that, and we've been there before, and I still couldn't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
And when I'm standing there, I'm like, what is the most logical place for this to be?
Right.
So it ended up being in an illogical place,
right.
But I didn't move it because
it's so
house.
Funny. You and I both did,
and it's in a
move.
Terrible drawer.
Yeah,
it's like a drawer that doesn't pull out very well.
It doesn't pull out very well, and you like have to hold it or it falls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is dangerous for forks and knives.
Right.
So and couteau.
Right.
That's a knife. So the point of this is, let's imagine. I know we took you on a quest, a Freaky Friday quest recently.
Yeah.
We're going to take you on a Freaky Fourchette quest this time. Yeah. By asking you, just imagine if every single time you walked into your kitchen,
oh yeah,
everything was in a different place than where you left it the last time.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine if every single time, just maybe you're like, hey man, sometimes the fork wants to be in this drawer and sometimes it wants to be on top of the fridge. Like, hey man, the fork tells me where it wants to be. How frustrating would that be, to be so clever that nothing is in the same place every single time?
Or another scenario could be that you realize quickly that something is that you use often in your kitchen is in a really inconvenient spot.
Yeah.
And you just refuse to take like the upfront time to move it. And so time after time after time, you are spending a lot of extra time, pulling that item out, pulling that fork out or whatever it is.
Well, and I think the scariest thing about being in someone else's house is trying to help them put away their dishes or cups or whatever. And the abject terror of putting it in the wrong place and getting that, like, why would you even put right. What are you even doing? And people come to visit here and they're like, oh, I want to be helpful. It's like, this is not at all helpful because you just put the plastic sporks in where the immersion blender goes.
Right.
And no one does that.
We have a giant collection of plastic sporks and immersion blenders.
But it's really difficult to try to be helpful to someone else where you don't know what where they put everything.
Yeah.
And it's also difficult when we don't put things in the right place. And though kind people of Earth, I'll just, I don't know, Earth is, it's where we all live. So why not just include everybody?
Right.
There are things that we put in the same place every time. And we do it so that we don't have to think about it. Like, everybody's got a place for a fork. But there are so many other things in our lives that we don't have places for. For example, Donald and I have lived in the same place for 27 years.
Yeah.
And for the first, 15 years of marriage, I couldn't find my keys. Where are my keys? Right. I don't know where my keys are.
Right.
Donald would just be like...
This is a common human problem, by the way.
Yeah, where do you put your keys? I don't know where I want to put them. I get home.
Throwing their keys willy-nilly when they get home.
They would be under the pillows.
Willy and nilly.
Willy and nilly. They would be in my purse. They'd be in the bathroom. They would be on top of the refrigerator for years. And Donald, bless his heart, would stare at me looking for my keys.
When you say bless your heart, normally you're like pitying someone deeply.
I pity you for marrying a fool who does not put her keys in the same place. And I remember one time you said, hey buddy.
Hey buddy.
Maybe you should put your keys on a hook. And I got really mad at you. I was like, you don't understand, man. I'm a very busy, complicated person. I'll never remember to put my keys there. And you stayed married to me, and I thank you for that. Yeah. It was very nice.
Well, thanks for marrying me also, by the way.
Well, good. But we find it difficult to find places for things in our lives. And one of our favorite bands from back in the day had a song. It was Radiohead is the band.
Yeah.
And the song was Everything in Its Right Place.
Yeah.
And I used to hate that song. I found it very annoying because I don't want to put things in its right place. I'm a free spirit who does what she would like, and I put things where I want. And guess what that created? It created chaos, frustration, What were you going to say?
No
what
one
did
has ever described you as a free spirit. That has not happened.
Maybe, but I think sometimes when people think of themselves as like, I'm frazzled, I'm overwhelmed, I have ADHD,
that's true. Yeah.
I can't control it. It's just the way I am. Like, I actually thought that, like, well, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's what I would do. I created my own chaos by believing that I was incapable of change.
So how did the key story turn out? You didn't actually tell us.
So I put a hook on the side of this janky little table that we had right next to the front door. Mm-hmm. Put my keys there. Guess what? I always know where my keys are now.
Always know where they are.
And it's really boring.
Yeah.
But you know what you know what? That might have actually been the catalyst for weight loss.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry about my keys, and so I could focus on the bigger picture.
So much free time now. Yeah.
And weight loss. But really, there is so much in our lives that we overcomplicate, like the beginning of our podcast, to get to the point where we get to the good information. And so all the way from Radiohead and their Everything in its right place, we're now bringing you over to Escoffier,
which back to France,
which is a French guy, and he put into place something in French, which Americans now say, which is mise en place. There we go, mise en place, which means everything in its right place, which is what Radiohead said.
Yeah, and just because you didn't say it, it's a cooking thing.
It is a cooking thing. Escoffier was a French chef who used his military background in organization and structure and everything in its right place. He took that into the kitchen and made everything sort of a system and putting everything in its right place so that they could cook, or, he and his team could cook. So mise en place is the idea of gathering and setting up everything required to prep a dish in large quantities so that you can make it multiple times. Have you ever done that? The I'm going to make a thing and I'm sure I've got it figured out.
Yeah.
And then you realize and I'm going to say bless her heart. Last week, our daughter made something. She didn't have the right ingredients. She didn't have the thermometer, the right thing. And she ended up making candy, and it kind of didn't turn out right because she didn't have all of the tools in the right place. We had all the tools. She just didn't know where they were.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a common thing with recipes. I think, people start cooking. They turn on the heat, so to speak, before they have read the whole recipe or before they've prepared things. And then they're racing to get to the next step before whatever they've already thrown in the pan or pot or whatever is burnt.
Right. And if the Industrial Revolution has taught us anything, I don't know if it has, it has taught us that structure and systems make it easy to mass produce things.
Yeah.
And when we are mass producing health goals, it is really important to have systems and structure in place. And oftentimes, just like with a recipe, we want the end result, right? We see oh my gosh, that looks amazing. I'm sure I'll figure it out. It's going to be fine. We try to make the recipe, but then we don't have all of the things we need. And then we get frustrated and overwhelmed because it's hard to cook. But it's not hard to cook. We just haven't planned well.
Yeah, I mean, and it's sort of like we say the goal is green bean casserole, but then we don't prepare anything that is involved in making green bean casserole,
such as having a casserole dish.
Such as having, or making sure we buy green beans ahead of time, or whatever. We do this all the time in weight loss, and this the version of that in weight loss is I want to lose X number of pounds,
right?
Without a plan to get there.
Right. Or we sign up for the plan. Oh, I got the plan.
Right.
Got the plan. I guess I'm going to do it. And then we don't realize.
Hey, I joined the gym today. That's what I did. That's that's the thing.
And then we don't realize that we overcommit ourselves because we don't actually know the full scope of what it requires.
Yeah.
And I know for me, as we move forward into the meat and potatoes, the boeuf and potatoes.
Oh boy.
I'm sorry. I'm annoying, but you married me. So this is what you get.
Here we go.
But watching cooking shows on TV, you're Rachel Ray's. Way back in the day, it was 30-minute cook. 30 minutes? You got dinner in 30 minutes. What's wrong with you, lazy bones? Why don't you have everything right? But what we don't notice is that all of her food is already prepped, and she's got all of her prep bowls and everything set out, and the oven's already on.
Yeah, all of the seasonings are pre-measured into a bowl. All of the vegetables and whatnot are chopped to their proper, size already, etc.
Right. And so when we watch these shows, when we look at influencers who are like, I'm doing this plan and it's super easy and just get it done, we see kind of like the high-level overview. Everything's already prepped. And they're just doing the thing, and then the credits roll, and then we're like, I'm going to do that too. But what it doesn't show is all the pre-work that goes into it, all the systems that you have in place to make it look like it's easy to do the thing that you're going to do. And that's where the mise en place comes in, the everything in its right place. So when we have lack of order, it breeds chaos. Like, that's what lack of systems is. It just is like, I have no system, I don't know what I'm doing, I'll just do it as I can. So what mise en place does is it streamlines processes, it eliminates a free-for-all mentality, and it brings a sense of calm. But I don't have time for all that. I just want the end result. I just want to lose the 80 pounds, and then I'll be fine, and then I'll figure it out.
I definitely don't have time for a sense of calm, for sure.
Right, but mise en place, it's not just about chopping all the vegetables and using all the, it's not about looking clever. What it is, it has a goal. The goal is organization and focus. And when we dive into something without reading the entire recipe, without knowing what we've signed up for, like, oh, sure, I'll volunteer, no problem. And then you realize there's 90 things that someone's asking you to do.
Right.
When we say yes too quickly, when we sign up for things too quickly, or when we promise ourselves some regimen that is super intense without understanding that we need to live our actual lives inside of it, we get frustrated. We confuse that ambition for a process. And when we sign up for a plan that's too intense, when we promise ourselves 365-day compliance without taking our life into account, or we think we're just going to hold our breath and get something over with, we stumble very quickly, we get frustrated, and then we confuse all of that with not being good at something.
Yeah.
So mise en place, and other people have said this too, I brought up the idea of mise en place in Molt Place, and a couple of people like Carla was like, oh my gosh, mise en place is the best thing, and it's a philosophy for life. Check it out. So I did. I checked it out. Thank you, Carla. But one article that I found, and Donald will link it in the show notes because it's fun for him to do stuff like that.
Super fun.
So they had some ideas about why mise en place is important and why not having it is bad. So I'm going to say ma.
Having it good, not having it bad.
Okay, so we wing it and we say oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. I'll just figure it out. We have clutter and overwhelm in our head and in our home. We forget critical steps to success. We rush and get frustrated that it feels hard. And then from that, and this is my addition, because it feels hard and, I'm not good at it. I'm not good at weight loss. I'm not good at cooking. I'm not good at exercising. We quit because we think all this chaos is what comes with the doing. But when we don't have the systems, then we quit. But guess what? People who are good at cooking, people who are good at weight loss, people who are good at fitness have systems. It's not a shock and a surprise and it all magically came into place. They take the time to put systems in place to make it easy to do the things we say we want to do.
Yeah, and we just talked about in our last episode, the Freaky Friday episode, about how we underestimate the value of practice.
Yeah.
And we think as humans that we should just automatically be good at weight loss.
Right.
I should just be good at this. It's just a natural human thing to do this, but it really isn't. It's like any other skill. It takes practice and preparation and planning and putting everything in its right place.
Right. And once you understand the basic skills, then you can riff and raff on it, man. You can make it your own. You can put on the
riff and raff?
razzle dazzle things. Once you know the structure, then you can adapt as needed. And for us, we have talked about it before. All we did when we started was we just started tracking. We have added layers of complexity as we've gone along, but really what it comes down to is having systems in place that help us. So poor planning gets us two things. First, it's fear. It went so badly last time that I don't feel confident that I can do it this time. That's every single time we say we're going to start losing weight, every single time we're going to start over, we're already afraid we're going to fail. And then the other is fatigue. It was so overwhelming last time. I just need things to settle down before I can try it again. So it's this sort of like, once my life is different, then I'll be able to do it. But I failed before. I have no proof that I've done it, so I'll probably fail again.
And we keep waiting and waiting and waiting for this perfect time in order to take action, and that perfect time will never come. And so you have to figure out and plan ahead in order to actually take some action.
Right. And so as Donald Weigel has said before, when we fail to plan, we don't have a plan.
That's right.
And like, if you go into a place, I mean, have you ever gone into a restaurant
yes.
or a place that is just like tranquil and calm and organized and like everything is going smoothly?
Yeah.
It feels way better to do that than it does to go into a place that is chaotic and overwhelming and everyone's yelling at each other and there's no systems in place. So when we sequence our personal tasks and our behaviors, when we find ways to put things in the right order for us, not something prescribed by a plan, when we figure out what is right for us, putting the right time in place, the habits, the behaviors, and systems, it makes it easier to do the things we say we want to do. There are times when I have tried to follow Weight Watchers or some other rigid plan, and I feel like if I don't do it their way, I've failed. Freedom comes from finding ways that work for ourselves. And so we're going to talk about some things that we do to make it easy for us to do the things that we want to do. So we've already put in place the idea of chefs planning. So we have Escoffier, who was a great planner, and then we have the Swedish chef, who just kind of threw it all together.
No,
he was
terrible planner.
Slapdash, fun to watch, but poor results. So I love the Swedish chef. Great guy. Not sure I want to eat his food, but what people do when they have mise en place is they plan. So for us, in terms of planning for our actual life, I plan for the week ahead. I don't go like, all right, we got 12 months in front of us. I'm going to do this every single day for 12 months. I'm sure nothing's going to get in my way. Everything's going to go perfectly. I plan week by week. I look at work, meetings, weather, visitors that we might be having, Donald's schedule, my schedule, and I actually ask myself, what can I expect of myself based on what is going on this week? So I take into account my actual week ahead. I have simple meals. I have scheduled workouts. I have go-to easy snacks and meals. I pre-plan my indulgences. I plan lucky meals or backup plans that might not be ideal, but they fit the week that I actually have.
Yeah, like if you know you have a central food-based celebration, happening at some point during your week, this might not be the week to expect that the scale will move for you and to plan accordingly for that. Or it might not be the week to also, spur of the moment, go out to a lunch of some kind. Or, so plan ahead and realize what you've got in store coming up.
Well, and too, in terms of weather, if you're like, I'm going to do a running streak, I'm going to do a cycling streak, every day I'm going to do it, and then it rains, and then you're like, oh, see, this is proof I can't get it done. We have backup plans. We don't just put all of our eggs into one basket. We diversify. We have backup plans and lucky meals. Donald has lucky meals, don't you, Donald?
I certainly do. Like I plan on having some sort of shelf stable or frozen meal. I've got one at work. I've got one of each at work actually now. And I always keep at least something in the freezer here that's calorie friendly, that in a pinch, when I don't have time to make my normal dinner, I can, worst case, throw that in the microwave for 5 minutes and then I'm good to go.
Right. And instead of calling it emergency, because that implies chaos, it's just lucky. Lucky. It's just everything's lucky. Everything's fine. So again, as the analogy of putting things in place, we manage our health goals by making it enjoyable and easier to do the things that we say we want to do. This doesn't have to be a slog. That doesn't have to be grit. It doesn't have to be like awful and overwhelming. Make it easy to do what you say you want to do. So now I might ask myself, and this is really annoying because I actually wrote down, how do I mise en place my life? Gee, Catherine, that's a great idea. I wonder how I will do that. So there are three main things that I think we do that make it easy to do the things that we say we want to do. So first, we have policies and standards around the kinds of foods we eat. We have a process and a routine for things that we do in our lives, and we have time management standards. And then the fourth one, the sort of surprise in this is that we have some mindset things that we've put in place so that it's not like life isn't a shock and a surprise. We have some mindset things that we use, we'll talk about in a minute, that just make it easier for us.
Yeah. And so the idea here is look at the various categories in your life and ask yourself, what can I do to make this easier for myself to do? How do I get myself to do this on a more regular basis? And this oftentimes involves letting go of your ideal self, like saying to yourself, well, if I can't do the perfect thing, then I'm going to do nothing at all. So figure out a way to do something so that you're doing something.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so we're the main categories that Donald sort of alluded to are like food choices, activity choices, and our mindset. So starting out with food. Again, not relying on a plan to tell you what to do, but actually adapting things, pivoting to make it work for you. So first of all, I make it easy to track my food. We talked about it before. What's the one thing? Deficit. Wait, right. What's the one thing? Deficit.
And that's a calorie deficit.
Yeah, a calorie deficit is what actually leads to weight loss. So I make it easy to track, which tracking, I don't get my kicks in life from tracking. That is not where I get my buzz or my dopamine hit. It's just, it makes it easy because guess what? I eat more than I think I'm going to, and then I gain weight when I don't track.
And look, weighing and measuring and tracking my food takes maybe on a like crazy, like bad day, 15 minutes, out of the whole day. And it's probably more like half that, like generally in a day.
Right. So it is a very small part of my day, but it yields the biggest results. So I make it easy to track by having my calorie tracker on my home screen. It's not like out of the way. It's right there, easy to get to. I also have generic, I think someone referred to them as like bucket or budgets for each meal. So instead of like, what am I going to eat today? What am I hungry for? I don't even know. I budget just like you do with your financial budget. I budget a certain amount of calories for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and my snacks. I budget for deficit days, and then I budget for maintenance days or days that I know I'm going to be over target. Like if we go out to dinner with friends or we go to Disneyland, like I don't expect perfection every day, but I anticipate budgets for each of those kinds of days.
Yeah.
And deciding also what days are deficit days and what days are maintenance days really helps me. I have put into place weekdays are deficit days, like nothing going on, no big reason to overeat. But on weekends, like Fridays and Saturdays, I tend to eat at maintenance. So I plan for maintenance days because I don't need to be at a deficit every day in order to make progress. So though Donald and I approach our food choices differently, we each have go-to systemized things that we eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Yeah, for sure.
So I decide what breakfast foods work for me. I know that I do best when I have protein and vegetables. I abstain from sweets in the morning. Cereal is dessert. It is not breakfast.
Yeah, and look, this is sort of one of my personal crusades. You know, everybody says breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but if you're loading up on what are really dessert foods in disguise, cereal, waffles,
croissant,
pancakes, like muffins, croissants, that's just dessert first thing in the day. And for me, well, first of all, it makes me tired. And two, eating that sort of highly palatable sugar just makes me want to eat and eat and eat. It like sends me off in the wrong direction.
Right. So know what works for you. Also, limiting my choices helps me as well. I have a go-to easy breakfast or two that's like, okay, no time, I'll have a frozen breakfast sandwich. If I have more time, I can make eggs and vegetables or whatever. But having different options for different kinds of days helps. It's not, oh gosh, I can't do this perfect thing. It's about having those backup and lucky plans. So again, for lunch, and Donald does this too, where he some people think about meal prep as being an all day super intensive thing.
Yeah.
But he hey, I cook up 5 sausages so that I've got sausages to have throughout the week. For me, I cook 4 turkey burgers at a time, and I keep them in a container, and then every single day I can have a turkey burger.
Exactly.
It is not exciting. It is not diverse, but it is simple. And for me, I don't need decision. I got enough going on in life. I don't need decision fatigue about what to have for lunch or how many calories. I kind of know what my budget is. I know what foods fit in that, and I pump up the volume to make it easy to stay within that calorie target.
Yeah, and look, I understand the need for variety in your life, but it really, if you can find foods that you truly enjoy and love that you can just eat over and over again, it does really make things a lot easier and simpler to plan ahead.
Exactly. So again, we budget for dinner as well. For me, I know I do best if I have a high volume dinner that has a lot of veggies and protein. And then I also just save sweets for dessert, whether it's having a bowl of cereal as my dessert or something else. I save it for after dinner, because if I start my day with sweets, I know it's just going to make me hungry. It's not about it being fair or other people get to have donuts in the daytime. I just know for me that it is much easier for me to abstain during the day than it is to introduce it earlier in the day. So for me, that's really huge. And then finally, for snacks, high volume, fruit, protein, veg, yogurt. It's not super exciting, but it is easy and predictable and go-to. So it reduces decision fatigue, which is super duper.
Yeah, super duper indeed.
Super duper. So, and then finally, I have policies or standards in place, like we were just talking about. We don't have super heavy carb breakfasts. For me, I only have alcohol on non-school nights. So that's Friday and Saturday. I don't have it every single night. I also have policies like don't eat off of our daughter's plate. I eat off of small plates. We've talked about all of this before.
Yeah.
But it's just about making it easier to do the thing I say I want to do. I don't keep cake on the counter and then wonder oh, why did I eat cake? Well, it's on the counter. What if you don't do that?
Yeah. Open boxes of cookies or whatever, get them out of your eye line, that kind of thing.
Right. So mise en place, and this is about keeping things on hand that are easy to eat, that are good for you, not prompting higher food calorie choices.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so how do we mise en place our exercise or our movement?
We're going to place the heck out of this. So with exercise, we do it. It's not negotiable. We do it at the same time every single weekday. We get up at 4:30 in the morning, super boring. We just get it done first thing. Every single time, and this has happened actually in the last week, I promised myself yoga. I said I would do it in the morning, but I was like, I'll do it later. Guess how many times I've done yoga?
How many?
None.
Oh, boy.
None times this month.
That's fewer times than I think you would like.
But I had it on my habit tracker.
Yeah.
But I didn't actually get it done in the morning. If I don't get it done in the morning, I'm not going to do it.
And then the planning ahead to get up early to do it in the morning is the going to bed early and planning for that as well, and not, staying up scrolling until, till suddenly you can't get enough sleep to get up early.
Exactly. So we have backup plans for the weather not being perfect. So if it rains, we can do things inside. If it's hot, we can do things inside. If the weather's great, we can do things outside. It's not just, well, if I can't run every day, then life is terrible. With our different seasons of life, there are literally different seasons, different amounts of time. Oh no, I don't have enough time to do my full workout today. That's super duper great. We can do non-exercise activity thermogenesis and just get in steps throughout our day. Like, we have backup plans for our backup plans. So it makes it easy for us to do something instead of doing nothing. Whether it's going to the pool, walking, hiking, rebounding, going to the gym, doing yoga, walking around Costco. If it's really hot out, we can walk around, walk up and down aisles. We just get in movement. Like, our identity is we are active and we figure out ways to get it done.
Well, and I know money and space are a factor for everyone, but having something you can do at home, finding some YouTube videos that you can exercise to that have nothing, that you don't need to spend any money to do, or having some free weights at home, or we have our mini tree bounders, our mini rebounders at home, the mini trampolines. I combined trampoline and rebounder and got tree bounder. And we also have a sort of very flat, fits under the couch treadmill, walking pad that is great for exercising inside. Just pull it out, plug it in, and I'm good to go. Having those sorts of plans so that you don't have to go somewhere, or when the weather's bad, you don't have to go outside. But having plans like that in place really makes it much easier for you to actually get your movement in.
Exactly. Mise in the place that you are is what I say all the time. It is what I do. But also making it easy, things in the right place. Keep a pair of shoes in your trunk.
Yeah.
Keep a pair of walking shoes in your desk at work. I set out my gym clothes every single night. I've got my sports bra. I've got my workout gear right on hand. I can't tell you how many times in the past everything was chaotic. I didn't know where my sports bra was. Our poor daughter yesterday came out. She didn't know where one of her shoes was. She was like, I want to go. I don't know where my shoe is.
That's called being a teen, I think.
Yeah, but like, when you don't have a place for things, you lose things. So getting to a place where I prioritize making space and taking time to have systems in place for the things that I care about makes it easier to go to the gym, makes it easier to rebound. Right now, Donald doesn't even know this. Do you know this? I'm wearing my bathing suit right under my clothes right now.
No, I didn't know that.
I am wearing my bathing suit, and that is...
You got a photo shoot
that
right
is
after
gonna
this?
mise en place me.
Oh, no, you're going to go swimming.
I'm going to go swimming before it's 1,000 degrees.
You're too late. It's already 1,000 degrees.
Anyway, Donald is going to...
It's supposed to be 104 Fahrenheit today here.
That is not nice.
This is not fun.
Too many numbers right now. But I have my swimsuit on. I am much more likely to go swimming when I'm wearing a swimsuit than if I didn't know where my swimsuit was.
That's true.
So that is what I do. I set out my gym clothes. I fill my water bottle. I get everything ready the night before so that I'm not rushed and angry about it later on. So the last one. So we've done food, right? We've done movement,
yes.
right? Okay. The last one is mindset. Mindset is maybe the hardest of them all because...
To put everything in its right place.
To put everything in its right place, because we did an episode recently on growth mindset. I used to think, I'm too old, I don't have time, everybody has it easier than me, I just can't, it's blah, 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 like negative. And
all the time.
I got negative soup in the end. That was the recipe.
Yeah, when you have nothing but negative thoughts, you're going to get negative results.
Right. So that was a recipe for disaster. So right now, what we do, and this is sort of, mindset can be difficult. I asked someone the other day what they think about when like they're not getting in movement, or like, what do you notice? And she was like, I just don't notice. I don't know. I don't notice. I just don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Paying attention to our mindset really matters. And checking in with ourselves when we hear ourselves being negative is sort of a catalyst for change. So when you notice you're saying, I can't do this, I don't have time, the question might be, what can I do right now? Instead of being negative and, oh no, nothing's going right, what can I do? How can I look at this differently? How can I, like for me with food, okay, look, I'm going out to eat and I can't control the menu. How could I pump up the volume? I'm going on vacation. Okay, I don't know what how can I pump up the volume? How can I get in more veggies and fruit? How can I, be more satisfied? Again, with exercise, maybe it's not an ideal. How can I sneak in more movement? Even if you can't get in your exercise, what can I do to make this easier? Where can I have my exercise gear so that I'm more likely to use it? Oh, we've got the treadmill right under the couch, not obstructed. We've got an extension cord right there to plug in. We've got our rebounders right up against the wall, easy to get to. They're not covered in a week's worth of ironing or washing or whatever that we need to do. They're easy to get.
And I feel like when I am at work or just in general around people, I find that most people go out of their way to try and walk as little as possible in every situation, and instead adjust your mindset to try and ask yourself, how can I add more walking to this situation? How can I add more steps to it? It really does add up and burn more calories.
Right. And the last one is, and I think in terms of boundaries, the biggest thing for me has been I used to say yes to everything. I didn't think I had a right to say no. I wanted to be agreeable. I wanted people to like me. And frankly, I think because of my weight, I didn't want people to judge me as being lazy.
Yeah.
And so I just said yes to everything to be like agreeable and people will like me if I say yes. But what that led to was overwhelm, getting in above what I thought the ask was. Like, oh, can you do X? And then you find out there's 90 other things in the background that come with it. So I have a practice when someone asks me to do something, I say, let me check my calendar and get back to you.
Yeah.
Even if I don't have a calendar, I'm pretending, I just put myself on hold for a minute. I think about what questions do I have about this thing? What have I learned from the last time they asked me to do something? What do I need to consider before I say yes? Do I need more information before I say yes? It helps set me up for success instead of just jumping into something that ends up overwhelming me and then leading me to overeat. And when we sort of go back, like if we take this back to the food analogy, sometimes it can be hard to examine ourselves. If we take this back to, have you been in a situation where you have seen something chaotic, where you see something where a restaurant or someone's household just seems out of control? You see, like when you look at someone else's lifestyle, you can be like, why are you doing that? Why are you making this so much harder on yourself? Like, it's so much easier if you do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at someone else's kitchen, someone else's lifestyle, and point out the things that you know they're sabotaging themselves.
Yeah. Did we tell our friends about putting their silverware in the worst drawer and it being a drawer that doesn't stay in? No, I did not say that.
Well, and the thing is, and I know they don't listen to the podcast, so I can say this, they have actually said they can't wait to get their kitchen makeover.
Yeah.
Because then everything will be perfect in its right place, instead of just making it easier based on the kitchen that they have. But it's easy to point out other people's maybe, systems that aren't in place. It's a little bit harder to slow down and show yourself some patience and really observe your world and ask yourself how you can make it easier. For decades, I just thought I was overwhelmed. I didn't have the motivation. Everybody else has it easier. Must be nice to be the other person. If only life was different, then I could make some changes. But when we take a minute to slow down and reassess our food habits, our exercise habits, our mindset, and our actual 3D space, and sit back and say, how could I make this simpler? How could I streamline it? What could I put in place to make it so that this wasn't a slog and something I have to do and just barrel through to get it done? How could I actually make this enjoyable? It takes a little bit of effort. And I know in the last episode, we said, ooh, effort is uncomfortable. Like even if you just took this next weekend to sit back and like look at your kitchen, what could I do to make it easier to eat well? What could I do to make it easier to have foods on hand that make it easy for me to stay in budget?
Yeah.
What could I do to make it easier to get in activity throughout my day? What could I do for all of the overwhelm that I feel? What one thing could I do to make it easier for me to have better boundaries? Once we slow down a little bit and look at our own systems, and look at me, I'm even talking slower to show a sense of calm. Isn't that delightful? Once we step back and take that little extra effort to take time, to make time, we make the process of our health goals easier to do. And when it's easier to do, we can do them more consistently. We don't resent it. We don't act in a chaotic way. And we find excitement in other parts of our lives. It's like once there's no chaos. What was I saying at the beginning that I made it easy to do? And my keys. It all started with my keys.
All starts
That's
with
the
some
story
keys, yeah.
I'm telling. I put a hook next to the front door and put my keys there, and it gave me the emotional bandwidth to manage the rest of my life. So what hook can you use to make each part of your life just a little bit easier, to set yourself up for some mise en place in your brain, in your kitchen, on your feet, everywhere mise en place goes, you go, what can you do? What can you do? You can do it.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for putting this podcast in the right place, which is your ears, by listening. And we have a whole lot more episodes out there. Like I said, this was episode 350. And the most recent 300 episodes are available on all of the major podcast platforms, and you can go back and listen all the way to episode 1. Start from the beginning if you would like, on YouTube or anytime on our website at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep, and if you are at weonlylookthin.com, click on that link for join our support group and find out more about Wolt Mise en Place. Wolt Place, Wolt Place, is that what I should call it? Wolt Place is a Facebook-based accountability group for women. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a place for support and accountability and fellowship as we all go through our versions of weight loss and journey venture. We are not a weight loss plan, but we are a place for accountability and support. And like I said last week, even if Facebook isn't your jam, maybe Zoom meetings are your jam. Maybe weekly opportunities for check-ins and accountability and mindset work and coaching with me is your plan. So check out our 2 subscription options, a monthly subscription with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to find out if Wolt Place is right for you. I promise you the Zoom meetings are worth every single penny that you will invest in your health in Wolt Place. So please check us out. Other people are. And we would love to have you join. We will say bonjour and welcome. Bienvenue to vous.
Yes, we certainly will. And you can also check us out on social media. We are on Facebook and Instagram at We Only Look Thin, or you can send us an email. If you have an episode suggestion, if you have a question, we will do our best to answer. We have turned listener episode suggestions and questions into many episodes of this show, so you can reach out. Or if you just want to say hello, give us compliments, something like that, you can do all of those things to weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep, and if you have a couple of extra minutes, please head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review. We are getting new reviews and new ratings all the time. Even if you have been listening to this podcast for years, which I think some of you haven't left a rating and a review, just leave a rating. give us those 5 stars. If you can't leave a review,
yeah,
that's
that really
totally
does
fine.
help the show grow.
Yeah, it does. So take that extra time, all the time that we give to you, give us a little bit of time back. We would really appreciate it.
And another thing you could do is just tell somebody about the show. If you're in a conversation and it comes up, makes sense, or if you know somebody who you think might get something out of the show and you tell them about us, that would be helpful. Or if you are in a Reddit group, a Discord server, a Facebook group, and it makes sense to give us a shout out, we would really appreciate it. That is another great way that helps the show to grow.
Yep. And if you are wondering what magical 10 phrases Donald learned in German, or how I got into an argument in French about not putting cheese on pizza in France, just remember that Donald and I are an inspiration.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.